Ditch the guilt, the shame, the willpower, and the whip cracking. Hello my fit food lovers, and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about willpower. In the world of health and fitness, willpower is very, very popular. It's a very common thing. It comes up a lot. What's interesting is I think it really just goes back to this yesteryear approach to fitness, nutrition, to exercise, and to weight loss. That sort of biggest losers, you gotta want it type attitude. And that takes sheer force of will, right? We gotta will ourselves to do the things that we maybe don't wanna do so that we see the progress that we do want to see. It's understandable that it is such a common thing to come up. It's something I hear about a lot, people ask about a lot, it's talked about a lot. Where do I find the willpower to do the things that I know I'm supposed to do? There's just one minor problem with willpower. It's that willpower doesn't actually work. If your actions and behaviors aren't matching your goals, if you say want to lose fat or lose weight or even gain muscle, and what you're doing in the day-to-day is not supporting that goal, I guarantee you, willpower is not the fix. I don't think willpower is ever a solution or a catalyst for long-term and meaningful change, because ultimately, willpower doesn't actually get the job done. There are certain situations where it can be useful, sure, but those are like short flashes in the pan, not long-term sustainable approaches. Luckily, the industry has kind of shifted away from that whole whip cracking willpower focus when it comes to weight loss, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to seeing results with your goals. And so nowadays, if you were to bring something about willpower up, maybe it's online, on Facebook, Instagram DM, maybe you're talking to a coach or you're watching your favorite YouTuber's Fitness for Food Lover channel. But if you bring up willpower now, odds are you're going to get responses along the lines of how willpower is fleeting, about how willpower doesn't really work and it's a limited resource. And all of these are true things, but just saying willpower doesn't work isn't all that helpful. And it certainly isn't actionable. So what I want to do right now with you is dig a little bit deeper. By its very definition, willpower is kind of forcing yourself to do something that you don't really want to do, like white knuckling it. Let's be real here. That's exhausting. So it's no wonder that willpower is a limited resource. It's no wonder that inevitably, if we're relying upon it, willpower will fail us because it will run out. Because we can't just force ourselves to do stuff that we don't want to do forever, right? Like that, it's exhausting. So what if instead of sheer willpower and just gritting your teeth, and bearing it through and doing the things that you know you're supposed to do for the sake of your goals, what if instead of all of that, you just genuinely wanted to do X, Y, and Z that supported your goals, whatever day-to-day action steps those may be, and obviously they'll be different based on your goals, based on you, based on your life, all of that sort of jazz. But what if instead of sheer force of will, you actually just genuinely wanted to do the things that support your goals? It would be amazing, right? If that were the case, willpower would become obsolete. You wouldn't even need it. And that's a big deal. And because it's a limited resource, it's kind of a nifty thing, right? Because you could add that willpower to adult responsibilities or whatever, right? Use your willpower for that stuff that matters, not fitness and nutrition. How do we get there? How do we go from this kind of old traditional approach, willing our way to fitness and making it happen? How do we get to a point where we are no longer relying upon willpower to make the progress we want to make? How do we detach ourselves from this willpower and whip cracking sort of approach to fitness that we're all so used to, that we've seen so many times? How do we detach from that willpower and instead of relying on that, rely more on simply genuinely wanting to do the things, the small, simple steps that'll lead to our own progress? Well, I think it all simply comes down to guilt, shame, and our inner dialogue, our self-talk. It's unfortunate, but the reality is so oftentimes our fitness goals are based in guilt. They're based in shame. They're based in ripping ourselves apart internally with our self-talk and our self-image. And all of these things are very, very negative. It's not that we want to make progress. It feels like we're supposed to. It feels like we should. It feels like pressure upon us to be more fit, leaner, stronger. Whatever the goals may be, we feel like we're supposed to chase them down. And it's not so much that we love ourselves and therefore we're working on these goals. It's from a negative place. It's from self-hate. It's from self-loathing sometimes. And that's awful. And it breaks my heart to hear about. And I see it so often with people that I coach, where the reasons behind the progress they want to make aren't about, I think I'm awesome and I want to be all the more awesome, so let's focus on the awesome and magnify that. It's about looking in the mirror and hating what they see. It's about feeling like they need to make changes because their worth as a person is somehow tied into a silly number on a scale. And all of that is incredibly heartbreaking, but it's all too common. So often, we set our goals and we set what we want to accomplish fitness-wise on these external expectations, rather than what we want, what we truly want. And so I think instead of putting our effort into things like willpower and things like cracking the whip on ourselves and forcing ourselves to do stuff that we don't really want to do because we feel like we're supposed to or that we need to, instead of that, I think if we can learn to address our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with food, willpower ceases to be something we need to rely on when it comes to health, fitness, nutrition. As we are able to love ourselves leaner, as we have a better relationship with ourselves, with what we see in the mirror, with the foods around us, those little things that are sometimes difficult to do, sometimes challenging to do, that used to take willpower, will just become things that you genuinely want to do. It's no longer deciding between what you want, maybe like a cookie or something, like what you want right now and what you're supposed to do. It's deciding between what you want right now and what you want even more. And that decision becomes so simple. So like, yeah, willpower is fleeting. It is a limited resource, but it's a limited and fleeting resource we don't even have to try to track down. Instead of putting all of our energy and effort and time and exhaustion into trying to make willpower work for us, let's make willpower obsolete. Ditch the guilt, the shame, the willpower, and the whip cracking. If guilt and shame worked, everyone would already be fit. But it doesn't work. Clearly. If anything, it makes us feel awful. It makes us discouraged. It makes us disappointed in our own progress. And it makes things worse rather than better. Instead of relying on all of those things for the progress that we want to make, let's focus on the relationship we have with ourselves. Let's focus on the relationship that we have with the food we eat. And let's let that change us from within. I'm not gonna lie to you, sometimes adjusting our relationship with ourselves or adjusting our relationship with food and fitness, sometimes that takes even more work, or at least deeper work and deeper effort, but it is always worth that extra effort because it sets you up for success not only right now, but in the long term, so that the results you see are results that last. And if we're being real, those are the only results that matter because progress is only as good as it is lasting. So let's ditch the willpower. Let's ditch the whip cracking. Let's focus on us. Focus on your relationship with you. Focus on your relationship with food and fitness. And as you do that, willpower will become more and more obsolete. And when that happens, you're setting yourself up for long-term success. And that's what matters most.